So, as is like typical, um, so my eventual psychotic collapse came from a girl. Um, this person was a friend who I had known for um, many years, and they screwed me over in a very major personal way that maybe I can talk about in another video. I'm trying to keep this short. I'm trying. Um, Being hurt like that by someone that like I really trusted and considered a friend, and also a potential romantic interest, turned me into a psychotic person. Um, Now, all of those symptoms I was talking about before were like ramped up times 10. Besides, like, thinking about drowning myself or something like that, like, I was climbing. I was, going to the top of the building at my work and fascinating, or not, fantasizing, that's the word, about jumping off. Suicide was on my mind all of the time, and I had never been that persistent, and like my internal voice that was bashing myself had never been that bad. And it just got ramped up to the point where this time I didn't take myself to therapy. I took myself to the crisis center and told the truth and allowed myself to get an inpatient. So unfortunately, this first trip to the hospital was like not that fruitful. Um, I don't know. Like I feel like I want to say that they didn't take as close of a look at me as they should have. They just sort of put me on medicine for um, depression, like Lexapro again. They put me like back on that to try and calm me down, and they kept me there for like a week to see if the medicine was taking and if there were going to be any side effects of that. And I seemed calmer, but really, to be honest, like I wanted to get out of the hospital to speak to that girl again, because when I went, even though I knew something was wrong, I didn't totally go for myself. I went because, like, I knew that I was acting strange around her and was causing her not to want to talk to me. So I thought that if I went to the hospital and fixed up whatever was causing me to act that way and got out, that she would talk to me again. So I almost like pumped myself up into believing that I was stable again, enough to actually outwardly portray the fact that I was stable, or portray the notion that I was stable, but like I wasn't. So they released me. So at this point, I still don't have the correct diagnosis. So I was out of the hospital probably for like a month or two. I went through a terrible blow up with my family, shadows, where we all got evicted from the house that we shared, and there was a lot of backstabbing between my mother, my sister, and myself. So like it wasn't a great situation for me to come home to, you know. It was quite terrible actually, and I think the combination of being on antidepressants, which I shouldn't have been on, by them, which is the type of medication that I shouldn't have been on by itself, because that can cause mania in people with bipolar, and that's what happened. Yes, it's another cigarette. Don't judge me. The one that I had before was like an inch. That's more than an inch. It was a little short of a cigarette. This is a whole cigarette. So anyway, so I'd say less than 2 months of me getting out of the hospital the first time, having faked my way out. I had to admit myself to the hospital again because my symptoms were getting worse, and I still was having psychotic symptoms. So, like, I went back to the hospital. Finally got the right diagnosis. Finally. Took all of those therapists who admittedly I didn't give enough time to for them to have formulated the correct diagnosis, and it took 2 hospital stays and like the destruction of my family unit at the time because I played a part in it. I said and did a lot of horrible things because I think I was manic because of that girl. Um, but I finally got the right diagnosis. I was able to explain what was going on. I don't even think I was acting psychotic in the hospital, like outwardly. Because, like, I know, like, if you, in my head, like I said, I have an awareness, even though, like, I definitely was psychotic and manic at the time, like, I still was aware enough that I had to act normal enough to, like, not end up locked in a hospital for, like, a really long time. Like, I've heard of people who've been in there for, like, a month, longer than a month. I was with patients who admittedly probably had other problems other than bipolar, but they had been there for, like, I met at least one person while I was in the hospital who had been there for years. But it wasn't the way that I was acting, it was the way that I was able to describe what was going on in my head and what had been going on in my life that finally convinced him that, hey, he has bipolar. And they prescribed me, I think the first one was risperidone, and I think also an antidepressant, which is okay when you're taking the mood stabilizer with it, which was the antipsychotic risperidone. So finally, things started to get a little better, um, but I still wasn't going to therapy regularly. I didn't have insurance, so like instead of buying like the whole 30-day supply of the medicine, I was like buying them like one or two at a time. It wasn't a good scene. I took one step in the direction of getting better by getting the right diagnosis, but I wasn't doing the right stuff about it. Um, Instead of working on me and focusing on my medication, I started to focus on my romantic life again because I still had like an obsession with like proving like that I was adequate, even though the person who landed me in the hospital the first time pretty much expressed that like I wasn't adequate. I ended up in this rebound relationship that I never should have been in. It lasted 2 years, but it was toxic. The two of us were very emotionally abusive towards one another. I did a lot of stuff I wasn't proud of because I still wasn't medicated and I still wasn't seeing anybody about my issues, really. I just knew that I had the issue and was making sort of half-assed attempts to get medication and stuff like that, but like I wasn't doing a good job. Even though I think there were some inherent flaws in the relationship that I was in for 2 years, um, I don't think it would have gone as badly as it did, and have it wouldn't have been as damaging to myself and her because I think it altered both of our lives fundamentally. None of that would have happened if like I was in treatment and trying to focus more on me rather than trying to make somebody else happy, which was and is still a big problem with me. Um, I'm great at addressing other people's concerns and making sure that they're okay, but I totally neglect myself, which is like the crux of like a lot of my problems.